Welcome to WorkMax. Big question is, what is WorkMax? Well, it's a simple yet powerful resource management platform. Modern resource management, maximizing utilization in real time for your labor, your assets, your documentation and forms, customer service scheduling, and dispatch. It's built for your business. It's got a very intuitive design. It's a web-based platform, no server installation necessary. Very easy to get onboarded and trained. Very configurable. We talked about it being simple, but in the back end, extremely powerful because the modules are very configurable. It's a product that fits your business. The licensing is very flexible. We'll talk about that. And once again, talk about fitting your business. Any industry, we made this to be horizontal. Names and terminology inside the software can be changed to fit your business. The problem we're trying to solve is that we know that you have people that are scattered. You have things that are scattered, information that's scattered all over the place. And all of that is disconnected and sitting in little silos out there. And our goal is to take all that siloed information and connect it into the power of one platform, one vendor, one database, one login, one user interface, something that is very simple yet very powerful at the same time. So our goal is to optimize your resource management. We want to simplify and streamline your business. We want to increase your activity, your accuracy, and we want to, at the same time, make this flexible and easy to use so it truly does fit your business. We have 5 different modules out there that are available to your business. Number 1, we have time. We'll talk about that. Assets, pieces of equipment, whether they be instruments, equipment, whatever it is. Once again, that's something that can be renamed and tooled for your business. Forms, very powerful feature inside of here. We've got service and dispatch. And last but not least, we have a nice little business intelligent module called Insight. All of those together are what we call the complete suite. We said we had flexible licensing. This product does fit your business. Depending on what your needs are in your business, you can deploy those now. You can add them on later. Have 25 time, 15 assets, 10 service, different things like that. You can mix and match the different modules across your business. It works on any device, anytime, anywhere. It is a web-based application, so the control center and the cloud-based portion of this thing does require a browser, but it will run on any browser. Out in the field, they can access it through a browser if they have internet, but it also runs on a mobile device, which is a native device for either an Android or an Apple device, and it'll work across any of those. Data entry. We said that you can access this out in the field or in the office through a remote or on a tablet. If you have internet access, you can enter this right straight into the cloud. You can enter this device, once again, the Android or the iOS device out there as well. We'll talk about that, and of course on a PC as well. A lot of people ask, what if I don't have a connection on my project? Not a problem at all. The mobile devices out there, those native devices, they will work connected or disconnected. We can collect all of that rich information on those devices, and when we do get a signal, we can synchronize that back up into the cloud. When you want to manage the device, it does require internet access and access to the cloud-based system. You can access it from anywhere you want. You notice we have a tablet out there. We tested this across all the tablet browsers, and so it's very efficient, whether it's on a PC, any browser out there, very efficient to get in there and manage your data. Let's talk about some of the modules. Number 1, time. We have all the GPS location stamps. Every time we collect a timepiece in the field, we put a GPS stamp on that as well. An option that can be turned on or turned off is as we're collecting time, as we're clocking in out in the field, we take a picture of the person who's clocking in at the same time, making sure that that in fact was a person who is supposed to be clocking in. Some ERP systems have very powerful capabilities on overtimes. Some people have less capabilities. We give you the ability to either serve up that time raw to your ERP payroll system and let that do all the calculations, or we'll do the calculations for you, calculating overtime, shift rules, all that information, and serving that up to your accounting system. We have full time zone support in Some of our customers' businesses, we have people that will clock out in one time zone and clock into another time zone. In that situation, most systems will give them either one less hour of time or one more hour of time, because it's always going across the time on the phone. We calculate based upon GMT time, and so our time is always correct and accurate. Once again, time will fit your business because we have multiple workflows. We give you multiple ways to collect time, multiple ways to address different breakdowns of time. We'll show you those different workflows in this presentation. We also integrate with all of the different payrolls out there, and that's going to be pretty important. Let's just take a look at that right at this point. So at this point, I'm going to go into our website, workmax.com, and anytime you want, go into workmax.com. It's a full-fledged website, and there's all full of information out there and so forth, so we can do that. Now, let me log off of this really quickly and log back on. So now we're going to go into the time modules. As I said, we've got 5 modules. We've got time, assets, forms, service, and insights. We're going to go into time, and I do have a couple little entries in here already. And you'll see that on this particular one, I've got, matter of fact, I should have synchronized my device because I took some time on my device here. And let's go back in here and make sure that I've got this synchronized. So I entered a time stamp on my particular device out here, and we'll show you what I did, but it should have shown up inside of here. I've got 2 of these out here right now. I got Pete Hickson, I got Bill Johnson out here. And in fact, on my device a little while ago, I put a timestamp. So you can see out there that David Moyer went out there. It was a Lone Peak renovation. I've got finished drywall. I clocked in at 11 o'clock, and I clocked into drywall. Now over here on the left-hand side, you'll see some little icons out there. Here's an icon that says there was a GPS stamp on it. So we're collecting the GPS coordinates. It was collected on a mobile device out in the field, and you'll also see that there's a little red flag that was an incomplete entry. So what it means is that I'm still working on drywall. And so I'm at 11 o'clock, I started working on drywall. Well, I need to switch tasks now and work on something else. So I'm going to take you to the mobile device at this point, and I'm going to show you the mobile device out here. And we will go in here and we will clock in on this thing. So I'm going to go back out, and this is the mobile device. So this device out here will work connected or disconnected at this point. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to clock into myself, and I was working on drywall. And what I want to do is I want to clock into something else. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to hit the clock in button. At this point, I have some options. I can clock in straight myself just by hitting the in button down there, or I may have other employees that I'm responsible for. So I'm going to hit the other employees, and I can select multiple employees down here and clock them in real time as they're changing tasks across the job on that day. But I'm not going to select any of those employees. I'm just going to hit the in button, and it says, what are you doing? Now, remember, these cost codes, phases, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're called in your ERP system, these are coming from your ERP system. I'm going to clock into painting at this point, and I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. Now, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to synchronize that. So when I hit the synchronize, you'll see down on the bottom, it's giving me a little record of what's going on. It's syncing the time data, and it's going through that device and saying, is there any other information on this device that needs to be sent back up to the cloud? So everything is going through and monitoring this. So if I go back out here, though, to my system out here, or back out to the control center in the cloud, what you'll see is those records are back here in the cloud. Now, you'll also notice a couple significant things here. First of all, I've got a new record up here, David Moyer, finished drywall, and it's now yellow, and it's got an out stamp. The reason for that is anytime I clock into a particular task and clock into another task, most systems out there will require that you clock out of a task first before you clock into another task. In our system, we don't require you to do that. Every time I clock, so I clocked out of drywall, I clocked into painting. It tells me I worked 14 minutes on that, but that yellow says that the system automatically clocked you out. That's a system-generated clock out. So very powerful visual cue saying that that you clocked out, you clocked into another task, and the system clocked you into another one. Now, once again, you'll notice that that new task of mine, David Moyer, has now a little red flag on it, which just says it's an incomplete entry. You're working on painting right now. You notice the red flag goes away on this one because now I do have a true in stamp and out stamp. So real time lets me clock in the morning, clock in every time I change tasks. I can do that as an individual. I can do that as an individual and multiple employees. It just depends on how you want to do that. But every time I clock in, clock out, it's creating that segment. And when I send that over into my payroll system, it's all job costed for me automatically at the end of the day. Now, we also know that there are some people in there that say, okay, that's fantastic. I love the fact that you can change those tasks. I want to do that. There's other people that sit there and say, well, I do want real time, but I don't know that I've got these guys. These guys are up on top of a roof, and I don't want them, having to switch in between tasks, but I do want to have a real-time stamp when they come in the morning, and I want a real-time clock out at the end of the day. You'll notice the next two records down there, Pete Hickson and Bill Johnson, they really were real-time stamps. They came in the morning, and at 6:48 they clocked in, and at 3:04 they clocked out. Now, they said that they were working on excavation. That's where they started, but that's not what they did all day. So we have a really nice tool in here called allocating time. And I'm going to select those two records, and down on the bottom, I'm going to use this little button called Allocate Selected. So as I scroll down here, I see Pete Hickson and I see Bill Johnson. And I'm going to divide up that time. You'll see that I have the time frame of 6:48 all the way over to 3:04. I'm going to hit New. And I'm going to say from 6:48 to 10 a.m., these guys actually worked. They didn't work on excavation. They really worked on some backfill. And they backfilled about 27 cubic yards of that, and they used a backhoe loader in here. Now notice that I'm not only against an employee, but I'm allocating against a piece of equipment at the same time, because when I need to bill for operating time, I can bill that piece of equipment at the same time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in the assets here, but you notice that I'm putting that against a piece of asset or piece of equipment. Now when I save this, you'll see I get a graphical representation down here as my breakdown on that. Powerful feature on this, if you need to take that and say that really should have been 10:30, drag it over and make it 10:30. When I do it, it drags that little section over. I'll hit another new button, and it says, what's your next segment of time? Well, from 10:30 p.m. or a.m. to 2 p.m., I did something else. These guys are really gifted, so they went over to refrigeration, and they did, 5 lump, whatever it might be in here. We got the drill, we say this, we got that. All of this information gets distributed across here. So if I keep that last 2 to 3 hours, that 2 o'clock to 3:04, and I don't do anything with it, it will keep the original allocation of excavation on here. I'm going to go ahead and save this. When I save that, you'll come back up here. Instead of having 2 records for Pete and Bill, I've now got 6 records, 3 for Pete and 3 for Bill. And over on the left-hand side, it shows me a little visual cue of the allocation. So once again, I can do real time throughout the day, clocking into tasks that I get out and clocking out. So I may have multiple clock in and clock outs in the middle of the day, or I can have someone clock out in the morning, clock in the morning, clock out at night, and then take that time and distribute it later. So either way, and by the way, the nice thing about it, I can mix and match. I may have one person that I always do real time, and I may have a section of people that I do real time in the morning, real time at night, and distribute that. So once again, very powerful workflows. One more workflow that we support in here that's also a very powerful thing is some people like to put their time in at the end of the day, at the end of a week. So I'm going to take you back out to the mobile device. And I will clock in as a supervisor. So I'll go out here, clock in as supervisor, and at this point, Don Phillips is a supervisor. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the clock in, but instead of just clocking in Don by himself, I am going to clock in some other employees. Now, I can set up groups, so if I have a predefined crew, I can always have crews sitting inside of there and saying, these 5 guys are always assigned to Don Phillips, or I can sit there and select it like this. So I'll go down here and say I'm going to do Steve Simpson, Sandy Bach, and Russ Hansen. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the next button down on the bottom, and I'm going to set the parameters on this. Now, a lot of timesheets are similar from week to week to week by crew. I can hit the little copy from sheet and copy from a previous week, but in this one, we're going to go and set one up right now, we'll say this is going to be the week of August 24th. Okay? And I'll go down here and I'll change my date. I'll say this for August 24th. I'm going to select 5 days. I could say 3 days. I could say 7 days. However many days you want to enter the time in, you can put that in there. Default start time was 8 a.m. Default hours per day was 8. What was the default phase or cost code they worked on? We'll say that they were working on some duct work inside of here. And I'm going to hit the create timesheet. When I do that, you'll now see that there is my digital timesheet sitting out there on my iPad. So I'm working this directly on my iPad. And I can look at this and say, great, all those defaults are right except for a couple. Or I can change them all if I needed to. But here's what I'm going to go on Tuesday. I didn't do just duct work. I'm going to go Tuesday, and I actually did refrigeration on that day. So now I've changed on Tuesday, all of my guys are doing refrigeration. Now on Wednesday, though, Steve Simpson did something more than that. I'm going to go in on Wednesday, and I'm going to change Steve Simpson. Matter of fact, Steve Simpson did not work 8 hours. He actually worked 12 hours. And he actually did something different than even just duct work on Lone Peak renovation. So I'm going to hit the little arrow button down on the right of it, and it says, what did he do? Well, I'm going to take that 12, and I'm going to change that down to 7. And then I'm going to hit the little plus button on the bottom and say, what did he do for the other 5? And by the way, I can do as many distributions of this as I want, but I'm going to put in here and say, he actually worked on a different job completely. He went up to the Costco warehouse in Orem, and he did some electrical work. He did some conduit up there. So now you can see the distribution up here. Now when I save that, and I go back to that digital timesheet, you'll see up there in the Lone Peak, it says, hey, you've got more than just Lone Peak on this one. You've got one other distribution down there, same thing with ductwork. And down next to Steve Simpson, you'll see a little visual cue that says that 12 hours has been broken into 2 different things. So now I save that timesheet, and I go back out, and I synchronize this, and it takes all those time records now from all of my guys, broken up, whatever it is, however I set that time up on that digital timesheet, it sends that information back over into my time aspect. So I go back over to my time, and you'll see all that information broken up out here. Now, they're going to be standard 8 hours a day, except for the one employee that I actually put 12 hours in there. Even at this point, if I wanted to break that up later, and you'll see all those time records in there from August 27th, 28th down. So even if I needed to at that point to take that time, I could still go down here, use the allocate selected, and break that up again. So once again, just to kind of reiterate, we support very powerful workflows, and I've shown you 3 of those. Real-time clock in during the day, change tasks, clock into different tasks at the end of the day, clock out. All of those breakdowns are automatic. They're there, ready to go over to accounting. Workflow number 2, going in, putting a real-time clock in the morning, a real-time clock out at night, and then going and distributing that time based upon the allocation capabilities in here. The 3rd time workflow is I want to enter all my time in at the end of the day, end of the week. I want to be able to distribute that. So I do that through that digital timesheet. All those records come across over here. So with that, let's jump into the next module. And let's talk about assets. We know that your number 1 cost in your business is labor. Number 2 is probably your assets. We know that there are a lot of pieces of equipment in your business that are probably sitting in pawn shops, or you don't know where they are. You have to replace a lot of assets in your business on a yearly basis. So our goal on this particular module is to really protect your investment. We know that that equipment is an investment of yours, all that tools and so forth. We want to protect that investment. We're also going to track your asset life cycle and utilization. We got a real powerful piece on the mobile device to track asset or pieces of equipment transfer and assignment, just for accountability across your employees. We give you instant ways to find an asset, whether it be barcode, serial number, whatever it is. We give you great tools when it comes to that. And really importantly, we give you a really nice way to know exactly where each of your assets are, and we'll show you that. So with that, let's take a look at the assets. We'll click on the asset button up here, and it immediately pulls up a list of all of my different assets in here. Once again, this is another one of those fields. I can rename that if I want to. I can name that to equipment. I can name that to instruments. Whatever industry you're in and whatever that makes sense to you, you can name those fields. And that renaming will flow throughout the whole system. In this particular one, I'm using some tools and some equipment, and this is just the database of all your information in here. Now, there's three things we can do with assets. Number one, you already saw me do one of those. As I was assigning and clocking in time to an employee, I can also clock that same time into that piece of equipment or tool because I want to bill for the time that that's used on my site. Okay? The second thing I can do is I can assign a piece of equipment to a job, and that's just done up here by job usage. And very simply, it pulls up a grid. It'll sit there and say, what do you need to assign? I can hit new, and I can sit there and say, what asset do you want to assign? When does that assignment happen? At the same time, I can assign that to an employee. So I can assign a piece of equipment to a job and an employee at the same time. Or if I want to, I can just go up here and assign a piece of equipment to an employee. So for instance, you may have a new employee that's working for your company and you gave them a toolbox, or you may give them a service van. And inside that service van are all the testing equipment for HVAC, or inside that toolbox, maybe a DeWalt drill, a saw, all the different pieces of equipment that they need. You can assign those to employees and make sure that you at any time have a record of who's got them, where they are, and so forth. Now, we've got a really fantastic little tool up here called Insights. And Insights allow me to go out there on a map and see exactly where every piece of equipment is. And so on the left, you can see I've got the little A button. It says exactly where they are and so forth. What's powerful about this mapping tool is that if I'm on a particular project and I need a piece of equipment, I have two options. I can either call the office and say, bring that piece of equipment from the office to this job, or I may find one even closer. Maybe I need a loader, and I need something very close to my job. I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to type in loader, and it's going to say, find everywhere that I've got the loader. Now, right off the bat, it says I've got two of these up at Lone Peak Renovation. Well, my job is really close to that one, so instead of pulling this from the office, I'm going to call the foreman from this job and say, hey, you got two loaders over there. Can I take one of those loaders for 2 hours, bring it over here, use it, and I'll bring it back afterwards? Absolutely. We got one that's sitting here. Okay? I just saved myself a lot of time and money being more efficient with my pieces of equipment. Now, on top of that, I may be the equipment assignment. I may be the equipment manager. Very powerful reporting capabilities in here as well. So I can come in here under Asset Reports, and maybe I want to look at all the asset assignment history that happened within the last day or week or whatever it might be. I can click on this report. I can pick a date range. I can selectively pick which jobs it goes out to, what asset. If I want to drill down into a specific asset, if I don't select an asset, it's going to give me assignment history for every asset. I may want to look at this and say I need to find out what assets John Simpson has assigned to him and so forth. What's a nice feature in here as well is if I am the equipment manager, I may want to have a report run every single day for myself. And instead of me having to go into the system and do that manually, I can set up this little thing called auto send. And I can sit there and say, I want this every single day. It could be weekly, monthly, but I want this every single day. But I really don't want it quite every day. I want it only on Monday. I want it on Wednesday, and I want it on Friday. And I want this at 5 a.m. in the morning, so when I get up and have my coffee, I can pull up my iPad and see exactly what's going on. And I can say, send this to me, send this also to Pete, and oh, by the way, I may have some external stakeholders that are not in the system, but I want to email that to them at the same time. So now every morning at 5 a.m. that gets generated. I get up in the morning, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I look at that, say, okay, that's what happens. It gives me insight before I even get into the office. So from an asset standpoint, once again, our job or our goal is to protect that investment, letting you understand where those pieces of equipment are, getting you more efficient use out of those equipment at the same time, also giving you a very good history and showing you exactly where everything is on a reporting standpoint. So let's jump back over here and let's talk about the next module. Let's talk about forms. One of the things we did with forms, we know that there's lots of forms tools out there. We wanted to make this easy for you to create forms. Do not need a programmer to do this. Very, very powerful. Capabilities to do this, but very easy to do at the same time. We give you nice tools like forms. based upon one answer to a question, you may pull up additional information on that. It may require additional information. Our forms will pull up that additional information and say, I need to have more information based upon your response. I can also have conditional forms, which means that based upon the response to a certain question, it will pull up additional forms and say, I need this other form filled out based upon your response to this form. We'll show you some of those capabilities. We give you grids with calculations inside of those, so when you're collecting information out in the field, you can have calculations generated at the same time. Signature captures out there, so if you want a customer to sign off on your form or your reports, you can sure do that. We give you unlimited form creation capabilities as well as unlimited form submission capabilities out there. And we also go back to that no service, no problem on the forms. Those forms are on those devices, and even if you do not have a connection, you can still fill out that form, collect all of that information on there, and when you do get a signal, you can synchronize that back up. We also give you rich media collection on that, pictures, videos, capture pictures, do sketches on those things, do free-form sketches on that thing. Those all come back attached to those particular forms, and they show on those forms. So let's take a look at the form capability. I'll go ahead and click the form. When you get into the forms, there's three options you have in there. You have submit, you have completed, and you have design. We'll start off with a very simple form inside of here. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to select the safety form. Once again, this is a very simple form, and any association to a job, an asset, a phase, cost code, whatever you call these things, any association that I want, I can put that in there. So I'll say that this is going to go to Costco, warehouse. Maybe I'm going to go out here and say that this is going to be for concrete, whatever it is. I create those associations in there, and so it tags each one of these forms with an association with those particular items. I'll go inside of here and say, what's today's date? It's today's date. And here's some information in here. Will you be attending the safety meeting today? Yes, I will. Great. Let's just click on that. Is there any reason you can't effectively perform your job today? If I say yes, I want you to watch what happens to the next set of questions. It comes up and says, well, then I need to know why you can't do that. Well, I'm injured. I had a little bit to drink last night, and I am on medication, so there may be some problems today. What safety equipment do you have today? I got a hard hat. I got a safety goggles. I've got my steel-toe boots, and have them sign off on that. Now, any form that we create in the control center, you can fill out here. So you can see if I'm in the office, I can fill out all this information. I can access all of the information on the web, in the cloud, right there through my browser. But any form that I create here, I can also deploy out onto my mobile device, and you get the same experience out there. So let's go back out here, and I'm going to pull up the device out here. And I'm going to go ahead and clock in, and I'm going to select forms this time. I'll select the forms. I'll hit the little plus button down on the bottom, and I'm going to pull up that same safety form. Now, one of the powers that we have in here is that based upon a certain form and the privileges I've gotten, I will only see the forms that are applicable to me. So I may have all forms. I may only see 3 forms, whatever it is. In this particular situation, I get to see most of those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to pick that safety form, and you're going to see the fields that come up on that safety form are exactly the same fields that were in the control center in the web. And so I can fill out the same information here. Will you be attending the safety meeting? Yes, I will. Anything that's going to cause problems on the job? Yes, there is. What is it? Injury, alcohol, medication. You can scroll across to see all your questions. What do you have? I got my hard hat. I got my gloves. I got my steel-toe boots. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this. So you can see that anything that I create now, I can accept that. Go ahead and save that form. That form is now saved on my device. And now at this point, I can selectively pick that. I can synchronize that manually at one report. So if there's something that's really crucial that needs to get back to the office right away, I have a little synchronize button of that form right now. Or I can even email that to someone right here by hitting the little email button down on the bottom. And it pulls up my email, creates a PDF form, and now I can send it out to whoever I need it. So if I'm working with a customer and the customer says, hey, can you send me a copy of that form you filled out, whether it's a service form? Absolutely. Hit the email, send it to the customer right at that point. They've got it. The information synchronizes back up to the office. Everybody's happy. So I want to show you a little bit more capability in some of the forms though. Let's go back into the web here. Now back up to the control center. And I'm going to go into this thing and I'll look at a couple different ones. This is one called the Platinum Agreement Form. This was for a customer who needed to have a form to go out into the field and to inspect damaged roofs. And inside this one, we'll go out here and we'll say we're going to pick a location. This is going to be Lone Peak Renovation. Notice how it pre-filled information. So I can map information onto this form just to save the person time from entering it in. I can override that if I want to. And I'm going to go down here, select today. And here's some of the intelligence, some of the capabilities we have on the forms. I'm going to go in here and pick a roof category. I'm inspecting a duration roof. And all of a sudden I look at that and say, okay, what color is it? And then I realize it's not a duration roof. Okay, I'm going to go back up here and say it was a Berkshire roof. Well, guess what? The colors change on that. And our form is smart enough to know to change the color list. So we're going to pick Concord. And is there enough damage that we're going to have to tear some things off? Yes, there is. Well, I need to know how many layers I need to hang off. I'm going to have to probably tear off 2 layers. There was that much damage on this. And so you can see all the options in here. Do you need drip edge? Yes, I do. Well, it needs to know a color then. Down here, even to putting little grids in here that says, do you have to replace any skylights? Yes, I do. Okay, what do you need to do? I need 2, and what size? CO6, and is there venting needed? No. Logo gas, nope. We'll go back in here, and this grid now will grow as big as you need it. So you don't have to sit there and preset in this form. I've got 4 columns, 10 rows. It grows as big as you need it. So I can go in here and add as many lines as I want in this thing and say maybe got 3 of those, and we'll go pick a different size on this one. We'll say yes on this thing and yes on this thing and so forth. And I can continue to go through this whole form, and that same form I can enter in out on that mobile device as well. So very, very powerful capabilities based upon that. Now, I also want to come back in here and show you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a form, and some people at the end of a day when they clock out, they want to fill out some information like, and I'll give you an example of that. This is what's called a clock out form, and at the end of the day, I want my employees to fill this out. So I'm going to go down here and say, what is today's date? And it's a very simple form. Did you take all your breaks today? Well, that becomes a real liability issue in the field anymore. If they say, no, I didn't, they better give a reason in there. I want to know exactly why you didn't take your breaks today, and I want that reason to be valid, because if it's my fault, I'm liable for that, and I can have some issues with that when it comes to labor. If they say, yes, I did, then we're trying to mitigate this risk and mitigate your liability. Did you witness any safety violations today? If I say yes, I want to make sure that they don't have to do it again. Make sure that that's logged in there. If I say no, that question goes away. So I want, were you injured on the job today? You know what? If I say yes to that, what's probably the most logical step we want? We probably want an injury reform. We said we had conditional forms. We also have triggered forms. All of those intelligence information. When I say yes to this, watch what happens. It says, great, I need you to fill out your injury report form. Now, I'm doing this on the control center in the office right now. So if it happened there, I would do it here. That same functionality is built into the mobile device out there as well. If I say, yes, I was injured on the job, it's going to pull up the injury report form out in the field on that device and make me fill it out there. If you cancel this, it will cancel this thing and it will go back and say, no, I wasn't injured. But what it is when I save this now, it's saving this report, this injury report form. So it's synchronized back up to the office, so the HR person doesn't have to track that person down and say, where's your injury report form? It's there for them to pull off any time that they want. So very, very powerful features inside of here. What completed, when you do complete a form and you do submit one, some examples of completed forms might be things like, here's an expense report, a simple expense report. I filled this out, Subway, Walmart, here's my prices. Matter of fact, I can take pictures out in the field of my receipts. I can do these in the office, whatever I want to do, have employees sign off. There's your expense report inside of this thing. Another contractor wanted to have something was a daily construction report inside of this thing. What subcontractors are on site, how many employees they had on site, what did they accomplish today, what were the current issues, what vendors were out there, what visitors were out there, weather data out there, different things like that. So all of these forms can either be completed in the control center, out on the mobile device, synchronized emails, very, very powerful, unlimited form capabilities, submitted, creation, and I will tell you that creation of these things are extremely simple as well. Let's jump back in and go into the next module. Service. Our goal in service, we had a lot of people that say, you're managing my labor, you're managing my assets, you're managing my forms. I need to schedule my employees out and have tickets created for them. So what we did is we created a very, very intuitive visual scheduling and dispatch capability. Tickets on this thing are very powerful. They're drag and drop tickets. We have the ability to go in and do what's called employee smart search. We'll talk about that. Integrated with forms and assets. So as I create a ticket and schedule an employee out, I'm going to include the forms they need to fill out at the end of the ticket, as well as any assets they're going to need to accomplish that job. And of course, all of this is going to flow back and forth from the mobile device. So anything I did create in the control center on a ticket standpoint is going to update my technician on the mobile device. And any information that they collect on that mobile device is going to update the web as far as the tickets and the servicing portion of that as well. We also support that rich media collection inside of there, the pictures, the videos, document what you started with and what you ended with, so that at any time someone comes back and says, hey, you didn't do your job properly, you can always go back and have picture documentation out there of what you did. So with that, let's take a look at that. We'll go up here and we'll select the service module. And the first view that comes up is a schedule. And this is going to be today's schedule, and you can see all my different technicians out there, and they got a pretty full day out there. Right off the bat, I want to show you that there's 3 different options up here to look at this on the schedule aspect. I've got a schedule, and this is just showing me today's date. Anytime I want, I can switch from a day. So maybe I want to go look at what was yesterday, what happened yesterday. I can see yesterday. Anytime I want, I can use the arrows to move back and forth. Very efficient to get back and forth from day to day. I can also look at all of these on a ticket view. So this is just a list of all my tickets. And anytime I want, I can go out here and say, well, I want to look at a certain job. I want to look at a certain employee. I need to find who's got a certain skill set out there. All of these columns out here are sortable as well. So if I want to sort this by location, I can sort this by location. All of this information very easily accessible and be able to get to the detail that you need to get to. You'll also notice up here I have a little button up here called triage, and there's a little red 17. Triage. Anytime that there's a ticket that's got an issue, it may be past due, it may be that someone didn't complete this in time, it may be that I have a ticket out there that's got no employee attached to it. That ticket will always go into triage, and if I'm the dispatcher, I know I've got 17 tickets I got to come in and deal with. And so it's a nice little thing in there that says I need all my trouble tickets. I just have a place where they automatically land for me. Okay. On the schedule itself, I have a couple other options in here. I can go inside of here and say, I want to look at this by day. I want to look at this by week. And once again, it's very easy to switch from week to week. I can go up here and say, I want to look at a previous week. Okay. Or I can go back in here and say, well, look at this as a day view. So you can switch between the day, week view, move around, whatever you want to do. Also, I can look at this by map view. So I'm going to click on the map at this point, and you'll see all my different technicians, and you'll see where they're supposed to go today. So Bill Johnson, where's Bill supposed to go? You can see the route that Bill's got to take today. And you can see exactly how far of a distance he is. And you may, at some point, look at that and go, boy, he may not make this. Well, it's very easy for you to take a ticket and reassign it to another technician based upon their proximity. So I'll go back into this day view, and let's say we're going to put a ticket in there for Pete or whomever. Let's go up and create a new ticket. So I'm going to hit the little new ticket in here. Now, before I do that, let me point out one other thing too. We've got all these tickets out here. You'll see that there are different colors out here. The lower the priority, the lighter the color, the lower the priority. The darker the color, the higher the priority. Also, you'll see these little flags, and we have a little legend up here that's tracking the status of each one of those tickets. Anytime I want, I can see that these are not accepted. I got a problem because my time frame is passed on this one, but this one's not accepted. And I may want to really isolate that down and say, I only want to see any ticket up there that's not accepted. Well, this little filtering capability lets me go out there and say, I can look at this by any ticket status out there and isolate that out and say, I've got to address these specific ones out there. So nice tools with that, with regards to that. I'm going to create a brand new ticket at this point. And I can take this window and I can move this anywhere I want on my screen. And I may be entering in a particular ticket for this, and something more urgent may come up. Well, I can go over here and hit another new button. I can have as many tickets open as I need to which is a nice little tool so that based upon different priorities, I can manage multiple tickets. Now, I only need one, so I'm going to close this one down. And on this, you'll see that I have a little number 1, 2, and 3. It's kind of like a little ticket wizard. And I have the ability to go to screen number 1, screen number 2, or screen number 3. I may not want to go to each one of those screens individually. Some people like to see all those at one time, so I can hit the little button up here called full screen. It takes me full screen. Once again, I can move this window anywhere I want as well. So I'm going to pick a location here, and let's say we're going to go to FedEx Kinko's and we're going to do some maintenance on this thing. So I'm going to say we're going to do some lighting. And there's my contact information. I have the ability to have predefined category and problems. Now, before I select one of those things, I just want to draw your attention to some fields on the screen. I've got skill set, I've got priority, estimated duration, scheduled start date, scheduled date, assigned employees. I can upload files, I can associate media on this thing, I can specify needed assets and needed forms. We talked about the integration with assets and forms. Watch some of those fields. As soon as I say I have lighting maintenance, you'll see that some of those fields pre-fill. It says you need an apprentice electrician to go out there and do this maintenance. It's going to say that this is low priority. It's going to estimate it's going to take you about 2 hours. It's going to say you need a step ladder and you need a service form in order to do this. Now, at any time I can override that, but this is by default what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go in here and say this is going to be a 2 p.m. and it's going to be today. So I'll pick today. And when I pull the assigned employee list, that's going to sort based upon 3 different criteria. First of all, it's going to go down there and say, who's got the proper skill set to do this? Number 2, who's got room on their schedule? And number 3, who's closest GPS-wise? Because we have the ability to track your employees and where they are. Now, if it's an immediate ticket need, it's going to track where they are right now. If it's something in the future, it's going to look at where they're scheduled at, who's the closest person scheduled. Now I'm going to give this one to Pete Hickson, and we're going to go out here and say, see Sally. And we'll go ahead and we'll save that. Now when I do that, we'll go back out here, and you'll see that now Steve is going to have a ticket on his schedule at 2 o'clock. Anytime I want, I can move that around. I can sit there and say, this actually needs to be longer. I can drag that. I can also go back over here and say, you know what? I'm actually going to move this. This should actually go down to John Smith. So let's take that. I'm going to drag it down to John Smith. And as I do that, it drags it down to John Smith. Now immediately, notice I drugged that before my time frame. It immediately went up to my triage and as the Nate 18 saying, you have a ticket that really shouldn't be where you just put it. But capabilities about moving those around, dragging and dropping those things, and all of that, of course, is being deployed out onto the mobile device. So if I go out on the mobile device and see exactly what's being sent out to my employees, here's what you'll see. I'll pull this up on my AirPlay again. I'll clock in as an employee, and here's what you'll see. I'll go into service, and you'll see different tickets sitting out there. I've got one that's pending. Now, every time I create a ticket, it goes out to the device, to my technician, and creates a pending ticket out there. At that point, that technician has the option to accept that or reject it, because they may want to accept and say, great, I can do this, or they may reject it saying, hey, no, I got to go to the doctor's appointment, I'm sick, or something of the sort. And when they do it, it actually goes into the accepted, so I can click on the accepted, and I can see that actually, in fact, he's accepted 3 of those out there. So I can go in here and I can pick one of those, and I can see all the details on that particular ticket out there. Start time, when I'm supposed to be out there, I'm late on this one, okay? I'm supposed to be out there at 11:50, okay? And now I go back in here and I go out, go out here and see all the details. I can collect media out there. I can also see any details in there, instructions. I can also go inside of here and do driving directions. So now I know exactly where I've got to go. I get onto my device. I'm done with one thing. I close out a ticket. I come on here and say, where am I going next? It gives me turn-by-turn driving directions. So all of that information interacts back in here. And any information I collect in here updates the ticket information back on the control center. So let's move over to Insight. Insight is a business intelligence module. It really becomes a powerful tool, which is a graphical visualization of your business. First of all, it gives you a map view of all the employee locations, where they are, almost real time. We're going to give you a snapshot, two different views of employees. We'll talk about that here in just a second. We give you a map view of all your asset locations. We gave you a quick peek of that one already. A map view of projects, so I can look at my projects and see exactly what the status of each one of those projects are. We give you real-time productivities in here. We're collecting time. At the same time we're collecting time, we're collecting productivities. And so we know exactly, based upon the time and the productivities or the production units that you put in place, we know exactly what your productivities are going to be. Not only that, we can compare those against your budget productivities and look at whether you're ahead or behind, and we serve all that information up to the people in the field. So your project managers out in the field can look at that and say, man, we have got to make up time. Well, how fast do we have to do? What productivities do we need in order to make this up? We give you that information as well. So we compare your budget productivities against what your actual productivities are. We tell you how far behind you are. We also tell you the productivities you're going to need to achieve in order to make that up. We also give you that rich media collection too, and the insights, independent of your form, independent of your service. We'll let you do complete project documentation, whether it be videos, whether it be pictures, whether it be sketches, whether it be pictures and marking up sketches or pictures on top of sketches. Very, very powerful features as far as that. We also give you full weather tracking so that you can put at intervals, say every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every hour, I want you to log in what the current weather conditions are on this particular job. And it uses a service to track that. So at any time someone comes back and says you shouldn't have poured that concrete on that certain day, we'll give you a complete history of all of the weather settings and find out that it really was 47 degrees. It was overcast and windy, but it was a perfect day for pouring concrete. So with that, let's take a quick peek at the Insight module. We'll go up here and do Insights. First thing you'll see is on the Job Insight, it gives me a map of all my different jobs. Anytime I can come down inside of here and see on Rivers and Hospital, and within a 24-hour snapshot of this thing, it's going to give me that information. It says two employees clocked in on that particular project. I have 4 assets assigned to that job. My budget's green right now, which is good, and all the weather conditions are great on that one. So I can see all that information. So right off the bat, instead of you having to drill down and do your own homework, this gives you a nice little visual graphic representation of the status of your jobs. Anytime I want, I can see a snapshot of all of my employees and see where they worked within the last 24 hours. So you can see I have 2 sites where I've got employees that have clocked in and clocked out. And I can see the details of that. Anytime I want to drill down into that, I can do the same thing. The Device Insight is going to do what's called breadcrumbing. And this is an option that can be turned on or turned off. But every device can have a certain synchronization that says every hour, every 2 hours, send a signal back to me so I know exactly where my employees are based on where that device location is. Now, that's extremely important for your service technicians, because as you're trying to get your customer service properly, you want to make sure that you find the proper employee with the proper skill set to deploy out to get your customer taken care of. We also, of course, once again showed you the Asset Insight, where it's going to keep track of all those different assets inside of here. Once again, I went out here and said search by name. I could search by barcode number. I could search by serial number. Anything I want to put into that insight, I can very quickly get that information out of there, and so forth. So with that in mind, that was an overview of the WorkMax product. All the different modules: time, assets, forms, service, insights, and of course, all of those together, we call that the complete suite. And so at this point, I know that there's maybe a couple questions out there. I want to open that up and turn that back over to Shannon. And but before I do that, say thank you guys for taking the time to view this presentation. If there's any further questions, or if there's anything you'd like to do to look at this maybe further in your business and how it might apply to your business, we'd love to have a one-on-one conversation with you in your business. So with that, I'll turn this back over to Shannon.
Thanks, David. We did have a question that came in related to the assets. Can the field users see the Insight map on their mobile devices?
On the mobile devices, on the mobile application, not at this point. It's probably something we'll do in the future, but I will tell you that on the mobile applications, if they have an internet access, they can log into the control center at any time and see the inside maps anytime that they want to. So all they have to do is log into the control center. So yes, it's all available to them based upon that.
Okay. We had another question that came in. It was related to, can you assign specific languages to an employee if they speak Spanish, that they would see a Spanish form?
Yeah, actually, those forms themselves, I can create a version of that form, and then I can clone a version of that form, convert the questions to Spanish, and then I can assign that form. We talked about the ability to give forms and get the forms out to the specific employees that we needed to. I can say that an English form goes out to these employees, and I can say the Spanish forms goes out to these separate employees out there, and that's the only form that they would see. So yes, absolutely, a nice little routing capability on those forms.
Okay, we have no more questions at this time. Just wanted to thank everyone for their time today. For those of you that would like to watch a video recording of this or have a set of the slides, we'll be sending out a follow-up email so that you can share that with any of your colleagues. And if you do have any questions, we'll have contact information, or you can reply directly to the email if you'd like to learn more about WorkMax for modern resource management. Again, thank you for your time today,